Good day, everyone. My pilot study seeks to explore how best to improve the local economy of St. Thomas, Jamaica, mainly because it is an isolated rural area that needs economic development. Owing to the fact that rural tourism is increasingly regarded as a tool to improve economic and social conditions in rural areas, this research will focus on rural tourism on the island of Jamaica and the tourist experience. This study will also aid in my understanding of developing a qualitative research. My research constitutes two main questions. I have decided to use the qualitative method for this research because of the exploratory nature of the study, with the main objective being to develop a better understanding of the rural tourist experience as lived by the tourists, beliefs and values, looking for ideas and pathways of reflection. Holloway and Galvin 2016 explained that qualitative research is conducted to improve understanding of individuals, cultures, beliefs and values, human experiences and situations, as well as to develop theories that describe these experiences. In preparing for the interview, I had incorporated a number of strategies. First, I began to review several literature, such as the SAGE project planner that would support my research. Also reviewed videos in order to gain a better understanding of the research that I intended to pursue. I prepared the consent form for the participant, then organized the interview questions that are appropriate to the study, which were generally open-ended questions. Thereafter, further advice was sought from my advisor. I invited one person to participate in an interview and provided an overview of the study via email and also provided a letter of introduction. I opted for a face-to-face interview because it offers a greater degree of flexibility as I am able to probe or explain in more detail and even motivate the respondent to answer all questions as explained by Fowler 2014. The consent form was presented to the participant, which she was required to sign prior to the start of the interview. It provided the background about the researcher and dealt with ethical issues including confidentiality. The participant and I decided to conduct the interview at a private location in our community, as I believe that a comfortable environment was critical for this exercise in order for her not to feel restricted to share her information, which could possibly make it easier to conduct the interview. Scott 2013 put forward the point that conducting field research into the social lives of research participants can raise ethical problems and well-being should be protected. Therefore, a letter of introduction was provided with Royal Roads University letterhead and was given to the participants to clearly inform her of the research aim and outcomes. The participant was also informed of the anonymity in the presentation of the results and also her rights and benefits from participating in the research. For the purpose of confirmation and authorization, the contact details of the researcher and the research supervisor were provided. After reading the information sheet, the consent form with the RRU letterhead was signed by the participant. The research that guided my study was Nicely and Seidner 2015, where they found that cultural characteristics of rural areas that appeal to visitors are also likely to limit local engagement in rural tourism development. The authors used the mixed methods approach to gather the study data and also the qualitative method as the dominant methodology. They look at elements in the community of St. Thomas where rural tourism products could be built, but could also limit local participation in the development of their rural tourism industry. From the 15 elements identified in the community's culture that explain their traditional, conservative, close to nature, and spiritual way of life, 5 were identified as possible drivers of community members' non-engagement behaviors. So I found a gap based on the non-engagement of these community members for my research question. Also, Su et al. 2019 applied the mixed method to examine the source of revenue and strategy of different household types in response to seasonal instabilities in tourism. The research revealed that the low livelihood capital efficiency was due to about half of the household being employed during off-season, which was generally temporary work. The research was initially conducted using semi-structured interview. The two main questions are as follows. To what extent is the local support for rural tourism development in the parish? What beliefs and practices do members of this community share on which a strong rural tourism product could be built? According to Alverson and Sandberg, 2013, research questions are the anchor to the research project to which all parts attached, while the purpose is what you plan to do. The interview was generally informal and conducted in a conversational style so that the participant was comfortable. An interview guide comprising a list of questions to be covered with the research participant was developed beforehand as proposed by Taylor and Bogdan, 1998. All themes were discussed before the interview was conducted. By virtue of probing and open-ended questions, the researcher managed to explore a statement or topic that arose in the conversation, also requested more detail or explanations, and encouraged further statements and stories. This helps to clarify that the researcher understood precisely what the participant meant as suggested by Chams 2014. With the permission of the interviewee, the in-depth interview was recorded with a phone recorder in order to capture more than the researcher could by relying on memory and prevent note-taking. It also allowed for a greater conversational flow during the interview. The following is an extract of the interview with the participant. What beliefs and practices do members of this community share on which a strong rural tourism product could be built?
The parish of St. Thomas, by all accounts, has one of the richest cultural heritage. When you think of Paul Bogle and the doors he has opened. Now, I believe it is the people of St. Thomas to look at how to capitalize on this. Culturally, St. Thomas is rich. People need to sell and market what they have.
The information presented from the interview was then transcribed and coded. This was a very time-consuming process. However, the tape recordings produced very good data for analysis. The codes were applied to the data according to what they specify, and notes were taken to assist in developing ideas for further analysis. In keeping with the idea of Taylor and Bogdan 1998, conducting the data analysis was found to be the most difficult aspect of the research process, as a significant amount of time was spent coding the data and identifying different themes. This picture points to the coder's notes for the main questions and follow-up questions. In an effort to answer the two main questions, I had decided to conduct a semi-structured interview. As a method, interviews are the most appropriate for research that seeks to address questions that require an in-depth individual response. According to Travis 2010, it is regularly described as the most popular quantitative method in the social science. Thus, one of the most important and widespread ways of conducting tourism research, mainly under the post-positivist or the interpretivist or the constructionist standards of research as supported by NOI 2008. As suggested by Taylor and Bogdan, 1998, a vital aspect of successful interviewing is the interviewer's ability to probe. Accordingly, open-ended questions were asked to allow the participant to talk about her experiences. Thereafter, the researcher probed for details and specifics. The tone of the interview was conversational, Nevertheless, probing was able to distinguish this kind of interviewing from everyday conversation as per Taylor and Bogdan, 1998. The following questions were also included in my interview guide. Field notes were recorded as supported by Philippi and Lauderdale, 2018. The information was recorded as follows. Generally, the interview went well. The participant was very attentive and responded to each question. The participant appeared comfortable and often spoke freely. Occasionally, participants would ask me to repeat, or I would repeat or rephrase the question. Sometimes we got off track, but I managed to steer the conversation back to the interview guide. If I were to scale up this study in the future, I would incorporate additional qualitative approaches such as observation and include a range of primary and secondary sources. Additionally, I would design a more comprehensive interview guide by involving other participants such as local civic, business leaders, and government representatives. I have benefited immensely from this exercise and developed a sense of confidence from the process of conducting this study. The readings and practice have reinforced my learning, and there is less apprehension about pursuing a research on a larger scale. I have also learned that qualitative research design can be complicated based on the level of experience a researcher may have with this particular type of methodology. The learning from this research will be useful in supporting my future professional endeavors. The decision to use the open-ended questions for the interview was a remarkable strategy, as it allowed the participant to contribute a great level of detailed information. She expressed her views and experience, which provided me with an opportunity to ask probing questions as a means of follow-up. I also learned that the environment plays a critical role in the outcome of the interview. However, the open-ended questions can present some challenges with extracting similar codes from the transcript interviews based on the amount of information that was presented by the participant as supported by Creswell 2007. This study was based on the rural parish in St. Thomas, Jamaica. It provided great insights on the potential of rural tourism in this region. There is a potential for educational opportunities due to its rich heritage in terms of its historic sites and ancestral history. From my analysis of the transcript, it appears that a significant amount of residents, business, civic and community leaders would be interested in the development of rural tourism in the parish. Majority of the members would be willing to support a rural tourism agenda with high positive socio-economic impact and low environmental impact. Due to the nature of this pilot study and the scope of the interview guide, there was limited local participation. I think this community would benefit immensely from a research at a larger scale, mainly because of its unique background and geographical location. Thank you for watching. I would be happy to answer any questions pertaining to this study.